Had I taken that money, this company would be dead today, and more importantly, I would be dead.
God's story, your life. Unfolding short stories.
Maybe you've read it in a story or seen it in a movie. This moment of breakthrough that a major entrepreneur has been waiting for. There's the big investor, the check they're getting ready to write out, and the chance for that idea of a business to become a reality. But what if that success demanded you compromise your core beliefs? Michael Seifert launched PublicSquare on July 4th, 2022. It's a marketplace kind of like Amazon, but it's filled with American-made goods from businesses committed to life, liberty, and family. But before that launch, there was this moment. A billionaire investor sitting across from Michael with an offer that could change everything. There was just one condition. Drop the pro-life stuff. One of Michael and his wife's biggest passions. Could he walk away? Or would he give in? Here's Michael.
One of the first lessons I learned in my own entrepreneurial journey as I was starting a tech company called PublicSquare was that it's not just enough to have an awesome mission that glorifies God. If you don't have an inner circle of people around you, and especially if you're a company that has to raise capital, if you don't have a close network of investors that believe in that mission equally, your mission is likely doomed to fail. At some point, the wrong influences, especially if they're on your cap table, can become a real detriment to the core business. And God's really protected us as we've built this company. There was one instance that God really taught me a tough lesson. I was sitting with a gentleman at breakfast in San Diego, California, and he is a multi-billionaire. His reputation was enormous. Folks had long spoken of this man's net worth and his ability to invest in dynamite rock star startups, and he does a lot in the tech space. I was introduced by a mutual friend, and as I sat at breakfast with this gentleman, it was very clear to me early on in our meeting that this is not a man that shared our moral compass. He certainly did not share my faith convictions, and he was not living a life, even in the slightest, that was glorifying unto the Lord. So while he had quite a bit of money and the ability to catapult our business to financial success, he was not someone that would champion the deeper principles that we were fighting for, most notably life, liberty, and family, unto the Lord. He didn't share those convictions. And as I was sitting at breakfast with him, I felt this check in my gut, this uneasiness about continuing this conversation. I witnessed the way he would talk to some of his friends. He took a call from another business partner while we were at the lunch, and hearing how they interacted was really disheartening. I watched how he talked to a waitress, and it made me feel very uneasy and ultimately heavy. At the end of the conversation, I still asked him for money. I asked him for an investment. And I knew in my heart that was the wrong thing to do. Fast forward 48 hours later, I'm waiting to hear back from this gentleman, and he calls me and says, you know what? He's not interested. Loves what we're doing, thinks it has potential, but we're just too early and he's not interested. I felt in that very moment, as clear as I've ever felt from the Lord, a warning. If I had to translate what I felt God was impressing upon my heart, it was, Michael, I stopped that one this time. Don't let it happen again. You knew that you should have walked away from that breakfast the minute that conversation started wading into an area you knew was not glorifying to me. And yet you kept having the conversation, and you went as far as to ask him for money when you knew that that was not a good move. If this company is going to succeed, Michael, you have to depend on me. Depend on me for everything. The blueprint for a company's success, the types of investors you bring around the table, the types of team members you hire. Do not compromise on your core convictions. If you would have taken money from this gentleman, you know you would have been compromising on core convictions. You would have been giving this gentleman far too much control of this business when he does not share your core convictions that are rooted in your faith in Christ. I stopped it this time. Don't let it happen again. That was the loving conviction I felt from the Lord in that moment. Fast forward about a year and a half later. I am in a season of fundraising for what we call our Series A in the technology world. So we were a private company at this time. I had started a marketplace called PublicSquare that serves made in America goods from American small businesses. You can find out more at publicsquare.com. And when we were building this, we were raising our Series A funding round, and we were getting real close to the deadline to raise this round. If I could not successfully raise this funding round, I would have to dramatically cut back operations, and we ran the risk that the business would never achieve success if I couldn't get to this next very crucial threshold. Just for a helpful statistic, only 4% of startups ever successfully raise their Series A in the technology space. So we're getting real close, down to the wire. And I met a gentleman who gave me a similar feeling to that initial meeting I had a year and a half earlier. I knew that he didn't share many of our core convictions, but he was a little bit more shy about it. It was harder to see it clearly on its face. He said all the right things. I just had an interesting gut check about this gentleman. And he gave me an offer that was very difficult to refuse. He said, Michael, I will give you $15 million in this Series A funding round, more than you're even looking to raise, but you have to chill it on this pro-life language. Mind you, at this time, again, we were less than 2 days from having to make some very serious cuts to the business if I were to not raise this funding round, and I had no other prospects. I was walking along the beach and having this intense phone call with this gentleman when he basically gave me that ultimatum. And I remembered feeling like, God, you gave me a clear warning a year and a half ago that I should not ignore this still small voice in my heart when you're giving me a yellow flag about a certain individual. I'm feeling it again. And I'm going to take a leap of faith, but I have no idea where the money's going to come from. So Lord, if I turn down this $15 million right now from this man who is asking me to compromise on my convictions, I will gladly do it. Lord, I got to trust that you're going to come through. And what I felt in that moment was, Michael, even if I don't come through with more money, you have to ask yourself a hard question. If the only way to success with this company is by compromising on your convictions, would you still choose success, or would you rather see it fail, but at least you get to go to bed at night knowing that you held fast to your convictions and your faith? And I remember praying, Lord, point well taken. I would choose failure every day, 10 times over, versus success that required me to compromise on my core convictions. I answered the phone from this gentleman. I told him, no, thank you. I am refusing this investment. And I just spent the next 2 days in prayer. Had no idea where money was coming from. We ran the risk that we might have to cease operations if we couldn't go much further without further funding. And when we were about literally at the 11th hour, I got a call from a significant investor saying, hey, I love what you're doing. I love the progress you've made so far. You've hit all the metrics I hope you would hit. I am going to reinvest in this company and provide further financial freedom and stability to this company so you guys can keep fighting and grow to that next chapter of your story here. Literally at the 11th hour, the right money came through from someone that I deeply trusted. Here's the point in this story. If you're an entrepreneur, a business owner, earnestly seeking God in this process, do not ever compromise on your core convictions for a dollar or for favor or for open doors or for certain partnerships. Had I taken that money, this company would be dead today, and more importantly, I would be dead. I would feel in my heart like I had sold my soul for a dollar, and that is not the story of this company. Thank God, now the story of this company, years later, is we're a publicly traded enterprise that has achieved a great deal of success, and while we're still early, we were able to build this company to a level of success I never could have dreamed of with the right people that God actually brought to the table. And that is something that I could not ever put a price tag on. So if you're in that season when you're raising money and you got a cool idea and you're building, whether it's technology or a consumer good or a business as a service, whatever you're building, do not compromise on your core convictions. God has a different story to tell right around the corner of you being willing to actually say no when it's time to say no. And that was the story I learned early on in my entrepreneurial journey that I'll forever be grateful for.
That core conviction that Michael was asked to abandon, his pro-life belief, well, it later became the heart of something new. Together with his wife, Sarah Gabel, they launched EveryLife. It's a pro-life diaper company. Now imagine the irony if he had compromised that core conviction with the parent company PublicSquare. Maybe the vision of EveryLife may have never been born. During Michael's moment of testing, he said this.
And what I felt in that moment was, Michael, even if I don't come through with more money, you have to ask yourself a hard question. If the only way to success with this company is by compromising on your convictions, would you still choose success, or would you rather see it fail, but at least you get to go to bed at night knowing that you held fast to your convictions and your faith?
This moment was a part of shaping PublicSquare, and it was a part of the rise of EveryLife, the diaper company. In the book of Daniel, there are 3 young men who are being asked to bow down, and with the threat of losing their own life, they said, "The God we serve is able to deliver us, but even if he does not, we will not bow down." Well, coming up tomorrow on our sister podcast, Wow God Stories, you can hear Michael share this story with 3 other stories of business successes and failures and how God is speaking and moving in the midst of it all. That's Wow God Stories, the name of that podcast, wherever you get your podcasts. Well, The Unfolding is a faith podcast, and you can discover more at myfaithpodcast.com.